Hey everyone, welcome back to another Tic Tac Taiko. When I was in San Jose Taiko, there was an idea called beginner's mind. This is a very simple idea. No matter how many times you've done a thing, a drill, a pattern, a song, whatever, you approach it thinking that you can learn something more from it. And while I do value that philosophy, in this week's video, I'm going to show you some alternative mindsets that might be better for your situation. I want to start by saying that beginner's mind is a very sound philosophy, but it's also a tool. And like any tool, you want to use the right tool for the right job. For example, if I want to cut a piece of wood, the hammer is probably not the best tool for that job. But if I want to hammer in a nail, I'm going to use the hammer. So with that out of the way, I want to talk about beginner's mind and two other mindsets that I have found very useful. I'm going to explain what they are, going to compare and contrast them, talk about their strengths and their weaknesses. We'll start with beginner's mind, and that's a very ironic title for it because it's not used by beginners. In fact, none of the mindsets in this week's video are for beginners. They're for people who have been playing for a while. What a while means is pretty subjective, but let's say you've done a thing long enough to understand or at least be familiar with it, if not, have gotten used to it, or maybe even sort of bored by it. Beginner's mind asks the question, how do I find something in this situation and get better at it? The key word here is humility. It's the idea that you are never so good or even good enough that you can't learn something from a thing that you've done before. There is something to learn in that song you've been playing for years. There's something new to learn in the drill that you're familiar with. Beginner's mind takes a very micro-focused lens and looks at the details of that thing. And then we have professional's mind. Professional mindset asks, how do I take this situation and use it to become more skilled, to be a better artist, better player, whatever. The key word here is challenge. The professional mindset takes a more macro lens. It's looking further back, not just at the drill, the situation, but all the things around it. Whereas the beginner's mind is much more up close, where the thing is all that matters. The professional mindset realizes that the thing is a tool to be used to help with this, or to help with that, or used over here with whatever other things will help challenge or push that person to be better. And our third mindset is the artist's mind. The artist mindset asks, how can I experiment within this situation? What options are available to me? And the key word here is play. In the artist's mindset, you're not looking in a micro or macro lens, it's somewhere in the middle. It's neither super up close or super far away. And this one is a little harder to explain, but once I start doing the examples, you'll see exactly what I mean. Before I get to the examples, I want to also talk about the weaknesses of each one if you focus too much on one mindset, which was kind of the purpose of the video in the first place. If you focus too much on one mindset, if you only have one mindset, some of these weaknesses become apparent. The weakness of beginner's mind is focusing too much on the forest for the trees. You might find yourself with a feeling of diminished returns, like you're really trying to find something to work on, and maybe you found it, but you're not feeling like it's much progress. You might be losing some of the joy in playing and doing the art that you love. Another way to think of it is, what's the point of getting better? I have nowhere to go. The weakness of having too much of the professional's mindset is focusing so much on the other stuff that you forget to strengthen the foundation. So the things that you're challenging yourself to do maybe feels like you're making progress, but when it comes down to the individual skills, your foundations might be lacking. And too much of the artist's mindset really leads to a lack of focus. It's sort of missing the point of why you're doing this in the first place. If you're not building the skills and you're not pushing yourself or going in a direction, play can easily just become a distraction. You've probably noticed that for each of these three mindsets, I have arrows or directions for each one of them. That's because to me, I see each one of these looking in a different direction. The beginner's mindset looks down at the thing you're doing. It's very present in the task. You're looking for and within the details to find how to improve. The professional mindset looks up, away from the thing that you're working with. You're looking for the challenge, you're looking for a destination. What can I do with this thing to help me become a better player? And the artist mindset is looking side to side around corners, looking for opportunities and possibilities, looking for loopholes in the rules because you're gonna have some fun. And just like the mindsets themselves aren't official, the directions aren't official as well. They just help me understand and embody what each of the different mindsets does. Before I get into the practical taiko examples, I want to do a quick example of each of those three mindsets using chopsticks. The beginner's mindset using chopsticks might be, okay, how do I position these better to be more efficient? Maybe I'm going to push them up a little bit. It'll give me better leverage. Or, you know what, maybe I can rest them a little wider in different parts of the fingers and the different parts of the knuckles. That might make it easier. This is something I'm familiar with and trying to fine tune. And then professional's mindset might say, all right, how do I make this more difficult? How do I train my hand to be stronger and more dexterous? I'll pick up marbles or frozen grapes, something that's gonna challenge me. Or I'm gonna try using these on my other hand. And then artist's mindset looks at this and goes, huh, you know what? Maybe these are drumsticks. Or maybe, work with me here, I've got a lot of hair, I'm gonna roll up into a bun and stick these through to hold it in place. Or, much more closer to the original intent of chopsticks, I'm gonna spear my food and eat it that way. So with these, you get a good idea of what each of those mindsets represents and how it would work with something that you might be familiar with. The next thing I want to do is talk about more practical examples of how each one of these has actually affected me and how I've used them in my taiko practice. I'm going to talk about a drill, and I'm going to talk about soloing in one particular song. The drill in question is the Roi drill, created by Roi Bayashi, one of the founding members of San Jose Taiko. Some of you have heard of Roi drills, some of you have gotten to experience Roi drills. And the idea is really, really simple. You have a ring of drums. In San Jose Taiko, usually this is nanane, the slant style, and you have one person in the middle on a high-pitched drum like the shime daiko. Everybody on the outside is going to follow the person in the middle as they change the pattern, the tempo, and the intensity of what they play. It took me a while to get used to Roi drills, especially when I was new, and once I got familiar with it, beginner's mind was really useful. I started to think, okay, I know I'm gonna hurt, but how do I get better at doing Roi drills? I can focus on at least something until my body kind of fails, right? So I'm thinking, all right, dynamics. I'm playing don suku. Let me make sure that the suku are the same volume. Or maybe I'm playing dongo. Let me make sure that my bachi tips are hitting pretty consistently and not moving around. Very simple way to use beginner's mind. And while beginner's mind never ever quite went away, professional's mind actually started to come in really handy. A few of us, let's say brave souls or very dumb people, decided to push ourselves by starting the drills with our weaker hand doing the accents. Normally for nanane, slant style, you would play with your strong hand or right hand, if you're a righty, playing the accents, your left side close to the drum. And we thought, oh, let's challenge ourselves. Yeah, we're gonna challenge ourselves, cool. We're gonna try the other way, which meant the technique wasn't going to be as strong and things were going to hurt much quicker on. And pretty much everybody eventually would move back to the comfortable side because we just couldn't hang, and that was okay. But the idea of pushing ourselves, pushing myself, was a factor of professional's mind. And the really cool thing that I admit I am proud of is after many years of doing this, starting on the harder side, people would eventually move back. I got to a point where I didn't, and I was the only person who was able to stay on the other side, playing with my weaker hand as accents. It wasn't easy, and it took me pushing past comfort zones to get to that point. But if I never had that professional mindset of I'm gonna push, I'm gonna challenge, I never would have gotten there, and my technique would never have gotten where it is. Now, for artist's mind, remember the key word here is play. I'm taking the situation and I'm looking for opportunities. I'm looking around corners and over and under. The only rule for Roi drills was don't stop. Cool, I can obey that rule, but what else can I do with that rule set in place? Now, I knew from many, many runs of Roi drills that if I'm tense, things hurt. The less tense I get, the less things hurt. So how do I alleviate tension? I gotta stay relaxed and loose. Can I play this relaxed and loose? And it turns out, yeah, it took some getting used to, and I had to kind of get over how silly it might look to other people. But you know what? Everybody had their own battles. No one really cared what I looked like. And I did a whole video on playing naname super relaxed and bouncy, almost silly. And that's where I got it from, doing that in Roy drills. And that wasn't just something that only benefited Roy drills. Figuring out how to keep that general foundation, that philosophy of looseness, tighten it up a little bit, transferred directly to every single taiko song and drill from that point on. All because of artist mind. As for my second example, I'm going to use soloing in San Jose Taiko's song Oedo Bayashi. You might know this as Yodan Uchi or Many Sides. Most of you have seen a version of this, and I'm sure I've got some video showing what it looks like now. And like I've said before, it took a little bit of familiarizing myself with the solo and the song before I could start engaging beginner's mind. Sometimes beginner's mind was very simple to think about. I've got two drums, two hands, I'm striking across, I'm striking on the same side. How is the sound quality, the volume? My dominant hand striking across has all the advantages. What about my weaker side striking next to myself? This is the hardest strike. They should sound the same. I should work on that. And other times I was thinking, how do I push off with my feet to help generate power, especially for the strikes that may not have as much muscle behind them? Simple things like that were part of beginner's mind. As for professional's mind, I'm always pushing myself when it comes to solos, but one, well, let's say, set of examples really stands out to me. There was another member and myself. We would be backstage waiting for our time to come out and then do solos. And we would start to challenge each other because we were very familiar with the song. We weren't bored by any means, but this was a way to break out of that comfort zone and do more than we might normally do. Honestly, I can't remember most of the things that we asked each other to do. But for example, it would be something like, during your solo, you need to leave the ground 3 times. Or during your solo, you have to ki-ai 6 times. And something like, for 4 seconds, you can't play the drum. Something like that would not have been that unusual to ask. And often there was maybe a few seconds to process what had been asked before we had to come on stage and start our solo. So this really worked our improv muscles, this really worked our creative muscles, and it wasn't just, hey, we had a fun solo. It started to give us more ideas and more repertoire for other solos, not just on tour, but for years to come. As for artist mindset, I still find myself in the heat of the moment asking, what if you just try this? Sometimes it doesn't work out, but often it did, and that's what made it fun. One day during my solo in Oedo Bayashi, I asked myself, what would happen if you just dropped to your knees? You're tall, you could probably still reach the drums, try it. I did, and it was a lot of fun. Never did it before, and it became a staple of my solo for years to come. Another example, at San Jose Obon, one of the biggest festivals that the group does, we were surrounded on all sides by friends and family, fans, and a lot of collegiate taiko players. And I could not tell you what year this was, but this was a time when the dab was very popular. Mind you, I never dabbed in my life before that. I didn't get it then, and I still don't get it now. But in the moment, I thought, I just want to try it. I want to see what reaction I get and see how it feels. It got a really good reaction. I mean, the college kids loved it, people laughed. And that energy it created, I don't remember what I played after, but I remember having so much fun. And that's the whole aspect of play through artist mind. Remember, each of these mindsets is simply a tool, and tools are meant to be used. Some tools work better in certain situations than others. Some are multi-purpose and some are very specific. For me, identifying these 3 tools have tremendously helped me as an artist, not just in taiko. But you might find that you have a 4th tool that you can think of, or a 5th tool. That's great. Or you might find that of the 3 that I've presented, you're going to group these 2 together. You only have 2. That's fine too. The whole point of this video is to open up the idea that there are tools in mindsets. You figure out what works for you, so you know that you have tools, you know what they're good for, and maybe they're multi-purpose tools. You find what they're not good for, and you use them. That's really important. Knowing you have them is one thing, but using them makes them work. I would absolutely love to hear people's opinions and thoughts on those 3 mindsets and any other mindsets that you might come up with as well. So leave your comments below. Don't forget to hit the like button. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button. Become one of the Tic Tac Taiko happy family. And until next time, keep on practicing and be well.